Hello everyone, Ian here and welcome to the Fun Guy channel, and for today's video I wanted to share with you guys another hunter build, which is my Arc Hunter build, aka the Juggernaut build. Yep, with this build you'll be slapping around enemies all over the solar system with no cares in the world about dying, because we're going to be getting healed while slapping enemies all around the solar system and also dishing out some crazy damage. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the goodness. But before I get into the video, if you're new around these parts, be sure to subscribe to the channel, so that way you won't miss out on any of the videos I'll be putting out for Destiny 2 in the weeks to come. And alrighty, let's get into it. Okay, starting off with my subclass. For my super, I'm working with Gathering Storm, which in my opinion is hands down one of the strongest and best supers in the game. And for my dodge, I'm running Gambler's Dodge, which fully refunds my melee charge when I dodge near an enemy. Then I have triple jump, and for my melee, I'm using combination blow, and this is very important for this build. A quick strike that temporarily increases your melee damage when defeating a target, and it stacks 3 times. So with combination blow times 3, you'll be dishing out a lot more damage. Also, defeating a target fully refunds your dodge ability, and this flows perfect with Gambler's Dodge. Then I'm rocking a pulse grenade because I feel that's one of the best arc grenades in the game, and it pairs well with the fragment I'm using. Moving on to the aspects, the first one I'm using is Lethal Current. After dodging, your next melee attack has an increased lunge range plus jolts targets and creates a damaging aftershock. Damaging any jolted target with a melee attack also blinds them, adding more juice to this build. And for the second aspect, I'm using Flow State. Defeating a jolted target makes you amplified, and while amplified, your dodge recharges faster and makes you more resilient while dodging, and your reload speed is greatly increased. Now for my fragments, and the first one I'm using is Spark of Feedback. Taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage, and this goes insanely good with the exotic gauntlets that I'm using, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Plus it gives you 10 to resilience, so that's always nice. Next we have Spark of Recharge. While critically wounded, your melee and grenade energy regenerate more quickly, and this fragment is good since we're always going to be in the thick of it, punching out every enemy we see, so we're bound to be critically wounded most of the time, and this will only help us get our melee and our grenades faster. And for the third fragment, we are using Spark of Resistance. While surrounded by enemies, you're more resistant to incoming damage, making us more tankier for this build. And lastly, we're running Spark of Magnitude. Your lingering arc grenades have an extended duration, and pulse grenades, hey, they made the list. So that's great. Now let's go over my weapons real quick. In my kinetic slot, I'm trying out the brand new exotic Quicksilver Storm auto rifle that if you were to pre-order Destiny 2's Lightfall, you would have received this as a bonus, but if you did not pre-order Lightfall, then maybe it'll drop in-game? But you won't need it for this build. Now what you really need though is what I have down in my energy slot, and that is the El Matador 64 shotgun. It's a precision frame, it does arc damage, but more importantly, it has the perk 1-2 punch. And this is the perk that gives this build all the juice, because hitting an enemy with every pellet in a shot increases your melee damage for a short duration. And again, we're going to be up close and personal with these enemies, so if you don't kill them with that first shot, your melee will definitely guarantee that final blow. And this really helps with those tough yellow barred enemies. The other perks really doesn't matter that much, but if you want to maximize your effectiveness, then be my guest. Go for that PvE god roll. Well, mine came with corkscrew rifling, accurized rounds, pulse monitor with a range masterwork, which isn't bad. But just be sure to have that 1-2 punch perk on the Matador, and you can get this shotgun from the Grass of Alvarez dungeon, and I believe it drops on the first encounter, which is the Big Ogre. Now for some honorable mentions, you can farm for the Brigand's Law sidearm that deals arc damage and it can roll with jolt, so that can come in clutch. Or if you like SMGs, I'd say try Out of Bounds submachine gun. This is actually what I use the most, and I really like using weapons with the perk Grave Robber, especially if I make builds geared towards using my melee a lot, so it seems right. And for my heavy, I'm using the Wendigo Arc Grenade Launcher since GL's got a buff this season, and the Wendigo is just a beast of a weapon, and I have it with quick launch, spike grenades, which is essential for any grenade launcher, auto-loading holster, and golden tricorn with the handling, masterwork, and boss spec. Now I didn't go over my stats on my last video, so I'll run through them real quick. For my mobility, I have it at 89 since I like to have my dodge as fast as I can. My resilience is at 100, and yes, the resilience did get a bump down, but it still works great, so I would get it up there as high as I can. My recovery is at 28, and I really wish I can get this one up higher, at least at a 50, so that way I can recover my health faster, but I'll see once I start farming high stack armor this season. Discipline, I have that at a 45. Intellect, I have it at a 33, which I'm not worried about because I get my super pretty fast, especially with one of the mods that I'm using that further helps me get my super. And strength, I have this one at an 85, which is good since this is a melee build. Now let's go on to my mod setup. Now for my helmet, I have a mobility mod, heavy ammo finder, and hands-on, gain bonus super energy on melee kills. And this is the mod I was just talking about that further helps me get my super fast. Then I have Harmonic Siphon, rapid arc weapon kills creates orbs of power. And for my gauntlets, this is where the true strength of my build comes into play. I'm rocking the exotic gauntlets Liar's Handshake, and its main perk is called Cross Counter. Using your arc melee ability or being hit by a melee attack will allow you to follow up with an extremely powerful melee counterpunch that also heals you. So not only you're going to be dealing some crazy damage, you're going to be getting healed in the process. And I can tell you right now, I really do feel like a juggernaut with this build. I'm always running up to enemies with no care in the world about dying because these gauntlets, paired with combination blow and lethal current, paired with all the fragments I just mentioned, dude, this build is absolutely insane. Anyways, back to the mods. For my gauntlets, I have a resilience mod with momentum transfer, causing damage with a grenade reduces your melee cooldown. Focusing strike grants class ability energy when you cause damage with your melee attack. And heavy-handed, your powered melee final blows creates orbs of power. For my chest piece, I have a mobility mod with a solar and void resistance mod, and with a new mod called emergency reinforcements. Picking up an orb of power gives you an armor charge, and when you have an armor charge, this perk activates, giving you a temporary damage reduction after your shield has become broken. For my boots, I have a mobility mod. Better already, your health begins to regenerate immediately after picking up an orb of power. And with a new mod called Arc Weapon Surge, your arc weapons gain a small bonus damage while you have an armor charge. And Absolution reduces all ability cooldowns each time you pick up an orb of power. And finally, my class item, I have a recovery mod on it, 2 outreach mods which reduces your melee cooldown when you use your dodge ability, and yes, this mod does stack. And lastly, I have distribution, reduces all ability cooldowns when you use your dodge near a target. And as far as my artifact goes, the Arc subclass kinda got left behind this season, but I'm sure it'll make a comeback on the next one. So I would say just unlock everything on the first column for anti-barrier, unstoppable, and overload mods for those Nightfalls or any other endgame activities that you need them for. But yeah guys, that is my Arc Hunter build, aka the Juggernaut build. I find myself using this setup whenever I'm getting in some pretty tough activities like a Grandmaster Nightfall or even the raids. And as far as PvP goes, it's not my top choice, but I can see it being good in some situations. More specifically like facing off against a tanky Void Titan or those magically overpowered Warlocks out there. Now with all jokes aside, everyone, thank you so much for stopping by today and hanging out with me. If you found this video useful, please consider leaving a like on it. And oh yeah, be sure to subscribe to the channel as well. And if you guys want to see me live on Twitch, the link to my page will be down in the description below. Stay positive out there, and until next time, peace out.